Hello and welcome to the Celtic Down Under podcast. I'm your host, Jarrod, and joining me tonight we have Liam. How are you, Liam?
I'm all right, Jared. Just usual here. No classes at school at the moment, so enjoying some downtime. But it's weather's getting better, so yeah, pretty good here in Japan. How are you doing?
Yeah, pretty good over here. We're going to like stage 2 restrictions here in Melbourne, so not trying not to rub it in on people overseas, but yeah, it's good to be able to go out and about and not have to wear masks in the shops and everything. So happy days with that. Yeah, in Melbourne last week we had 75,000 people go to an AFL football game, so things are charting in the right direction here. Yet, you know, in Scotland we can't have more than 300 people at a game, so shows how different things are around the world. But everyone stays safe. Now, just want to introduce the newest member of our podcast team. So, welcome aboard, Claire. How are you?
I'm good. I am now more depressed about the restrictions. Thanks for rubbing it in there, both of you. I am here in Glasgow, and yeah, it is still quite restrictive over here. Masks everywhere, and struggles to do even the basic things. But hopefully, things are looking up at some point. That would be helpful. Get me back at Celtic Park pronto. Very much missing going to football games and stuff. But yeah, all good over here.
Yeah, so just welcome aboard, and
thank you.
There you go. Because we're on a podcast, so people can't give you a round of applause and welcome you and everything. So you get that.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
All right, so how boring is it when it's international football?
Oh, God, it's dull. It's dull. And after watching 2 Scotland games, it's just emphasised that.
Yeah, I don't know what your takes are on it, Liam, but for me, the sooner Celtic is back, the better. I said before the break that I just want this season over so we can focus on next season. But yeah, realistically, the sooner internationals are over, the sooner our guys can get back, smash out those last, 8 or 9 games, and yeah, get on with it, basically.
Yeah, the internationals are just and the thing is with Scotland, every bloody campaign it happens, we get our hopes up, and then after like 2 or 3 games, we're basically done, and we're chasing it for the rest of the thing. And we'll end up probably not qualifying by 1 point. We'll be really unlucky because that's what we always do. And it'll be if we just bloody beaten Austria last week, we could have done it, That's what's going to happen, because that's what always happens.
Nah, it's more countries like Israel you got to beat.
True, yeah.
It's more that level, be honest, yeah. Is Austria a better team on paper and on the pitch than Scotland? Yeah.
We've had more run-ins with Israel than the PLO lately.
Yeah, so realistically, you got to beat the teams that you should be beating, and that ties into what Celtic haven't done very well this season. In that, we've done okay, but we've dropped a lot of points with draws and losses and stuff like that to teams that shouldn't be beating us. Like St Mirren hadn't beaten us at Celtic Park in 31 years, and they beat us. St Johnstone, look what they've done this year. So there's just a couple of examples. So yeah. Scotland, it's the same deal with internationals. Beat the teams you should be beating, and yeah, if you can win at home and pick up draws on the road, you'll qualify.
I reckon Denmark are going to run away with the group. We've still got a shot at getting second, I guess.
I don't quite understand how it all works for your groups and everything. So, do you want to tell us?
Well, Claire, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think if we win the group, we qualify automatically. If we're second, we go into a playoff. Is that right?
Correct, yeah. That's the weird and wonderful world of qualifying these days, yeah.
Because ours over here in Asia is weird. It's like if you finish top, you go through. But if you finish second, third, or fourth, you go into the next batch of playoffs or something like that. So it's 2 stages. So you got first group stage, you finish top 4, you go into the next group stage. You go from there, you finish first, you're straight in. You finish second, you're straight in. Third and fourth, playoff. And then third and fourth in the other group, playoff. And then the 2 winners play off for the 5th spot. So it's a lot more convoluted than what you guys have.
Oh, it sounds a lot better if I'm honest. I mean, I don't know. Scotland are boring, so boring. One tournament wonder or something like that. I mean, I was expecting so much more because I was thinking, we qualified for, the Euros and we might actually turn this around and play well. Yeah, no, you're constantly disappointed, I think, with Scotland, and you get one good thing and then you're disappointed again. But yeah, I mean, if we get into the playoffs, Scotland like to do things the hard way. Liam, you can agree with me on this. We don't do things easy. We put their fans through the ringer. We will all be behind couches and bricking it till the 90th minute of the second leg of the playoff. It'll be one of those, it's going to be like that.
Aye, I mean, the thing is that there's more teams going to the World Cup this year, so in theory, it should be easier to qualify. And this is an easier group than what we've had before, so aye, I mean, still get a chance, just need to get our ideas together.
Apparently he's changing the goalkeeper for the Faroe Islands game. He said today that 3 games in a week is too much for David Marshall or something, which is just an utter load of nonsense. But
aye. Well, yeah, because we all know how stressful it has been a goalkeeper, standing there for 90 minutes.
A lot of Celtic, it's pretty stressful by the looks of things, but that's a different. That's a slightly different story.
I'm going to throw to you for a second, Claire, because you're just bringing up the goalkeeper. Something you said in our group chat early days last week was about Marshall for Celtic. What was your take on that?
Do you know? I kind of want him back because I know how god awful the ones we have are, but do we rely on the past to kind of build us forward? I don't know if that's maybe not the wisest idea because people will expect them to be. Expectations of David Marshall are probably slightly varied now. He is obviously a lot older and he does have the experience, but I just don't know. I would take him back because he's better than what we have, but I mean, he would be a good mentor for someone like Hazard, who seems pretty, from what I read over here, seems pretty determined to be number one or fight for being number one goalkeeper here. He said he wants to fight, otherwise he'd need to look elsewhere. So
I don't blame him for saying that though, because if Scott Bain's in front of you, seriously now.
I know. I mean, I don't mind Hazard so much. I don't think he's that bad. He's a young boy. He needs someone that he can probably look to and learn from, and Marshall potentially provides that. But I mean, I need Barkas out that door. That's just stressing the life out of me that he's even still there. But whether we put him in a box and send him back to wherever he came from, I don't know. But
return to sender.
Honestly, I don't know. It's like he reminds me of like a midfielder that you put in goals when somebody gets sent off and you've no subs left. That's the kind of way I see Barkas, But I would take David Marshall back. I don't think it would cost a lot of money, and the board are going to come out and say money's tight because of COVID, and they're going to say give every excuse under the sun. So I mean, yeah, I would take him back. I think because I can't think any better right now, to be honest, that we could get.
What would you do, Liam?
I mean, the one thing, Claire raises the point about, age, but my response to that would be Alan McGregor.
True.
Probably the Huns' best player this season. And what is he now, 38, 39?
Yeah, I think he's 39 or something, and there's a good chance he'll probably get player of the year over here, if I'm being honest.
Aye, and David Marshall's a good, 4 or 5 years younger than that, so, I mean, 35 is not that old for a goalkeeper these days, so I wouldn't rule him out on that basis.
I think he's 36 actually, from what if my maths works right out. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, experienced goalkeeper, knows what he's doing, knows the club, knows what he's going into. I mean, the guy how many goalkeepers can claim they got a shutout against Barcelona? It's. I think if we could get him for a decent fee, I think it'd be a good signing. And like you say, pair him up with a younger keeper like Hazard and bring him on. Maybe make Hazard the cup keeper for next year, if you like.
Master and Apprentice. There it is.
Aye. I mean,
we won't have to pay.
we'll have to
a
see
decent
what
fee,
becomes
mate.
available in the closed season. But at the moment, if Marshall's available, it sounds like a good option.
We won't have to pay a fee, Liam, because they're free agent.
Right, even better. Lowell's favourite price tag.
He's not going to be there, though.
No.
Let's see what Mackay thinks.
I saw an interesting one this morning, and rumour, I have no idea where, somewhere in the depths of Twitter probably, you know, when you go down a rabbit hole on there and you click on one thing, then there's something else, and you go, and next thing you know, you're like, how the hell did I land on a Liverpool page? But the rumours are, like, you've got people saying about, they're looking at Edouard, and they're offering...
Really?
Apparently Liverpool are looking at Edouard on some page on there I saw. I don't know, you know, Twitter bullshit basically. But yeah, they were saying about they're looking at Edouard and they'll give us Origi and who was that keeper of theirs who absolutely butchered it in the Champions League final a few years back?
Oh,
The German guy,
no,
Carriers. That's the one.
I know the blonde guy. I know who you're talking about. I can't think of his name now.
Give them those two and 10 million for Edouard. I would actually contemplate that.
I'd bite their hand off for that. I think that's great considering how poor a season Edward's had.
Yeah, I know. I read that.
Edward, who said he thinks he's had quite a good season as well. You're just like, oh, God.
Because I'm looking at it going, okay, if we get a replacement striker, we get a goalkeeper, and then we get 10 million because there's a sell-on for PSG. They're not going to get anywhere near as much of the chunk of change, and we're filling two holes in our squad. It makes perfect sense for me. I was like, chuck in Ben Davies while you're at it, and you've got a deal.
Oh, that Ben Davies thing's a weird one. Like, there was that rumour cutting about that he was going to still come to us in the summer, and it's like, well, no, bugger off, because you made an arse of that, Celtic. I mean, how that... I don't know what happened there. I don't know the details of it, but, I mean... Do you know what? For Ben Davies plus the striker, I'll take those two and then scrap the goalie and bring Marcel in. I'd be quite happy.
There you go.
If only.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to take something like that to get the fans back on side, you know?
They're going to need to announce something soon, though. I mean, I don't know when the season ticket sales they're going to start having to punt them soon over here. So, you know, they need something to entice the fans. I'm not saying a lot of people are going to not renew, but it's a lot of money for people, so they need to have a reason to go and watch and pay that money to watch. They don't want to go watch shit again like they did this season.
No.
On TV, do you know what I mean? They need to announce something soon. I don't know when, but I think people are getting quite tetchy now.
Well, that ties in perfect to our next topic, which was the manager rumours. I feel like, you know, a hamster on a wheel running, and we're going around in circles here because every week is a different manager linked to the job. So the rumours from this week that I've seen are Roy Keane has been interviewed and Eddie Howe has been interviewed and both have been spotted in Glasgow. Thierry Henry and Lucien Favreau, however you say his name, I can't pronounce that, have both declared their interest in the job. Then when you look on the bookies list, this is where it gets absolutely crazy. You've got John Kennedy at second favourite still, Enzo Maresca fourth favourite, Steve Clark now at fifth favourite. If he keeps going the way things are with Scotland, to me, that rules him out of the gig, definitely. Frank Lampard, six. They've got Robbie Keane. Some idiot is putting money on Robbie Keane.
Oh, no. No, keep that wee
God,
away.
no.
It gets better, though. You go on to oddschecker.com, right? Football managers. It's the best one to look at if you want to laugh. Mark Warburton.
Are you joking?
I'm just reading them through for you for a laugh. I just want to see your reactions when I do this.
Oh, God.
Jardine, Chris Coleman,
Right.
Chris Wilder.
Oh, fuck off.
Better off with Gene Wilder.
Diego
Yeah,
Martinez,
definitely.
whoever that is. Then they've got Rafa Benitez. Not going to happen. Nathan Jones. Eric Ten Hag, or Haag, or however you say it. Paul Lambert. Gianfranco Zola. early days, remember when we were linked with getting rid of Lenny back in like December, Feb? Marco Silva was like the hot name on everyone's lips. That's how far down this list is. It gets better though. Steve McLaren, Roberto Martinez, Colo Torre, Mark Hughes, Michael O'Neill, Sven-Goran Eriksson.
Oh my God, no.
Christ.
Philip Cochrane, Slaven Bilic, John Terry.
What?
Yeah. At 66-1, that is. So that shows how far out it is. Sean Dyke, Sean Maloney, David Moyes. That's where we get into Henrik Larsson and Thierry Henry territory there. And then it looks like we get into all the Scottish and old boys list here. So Jack Ross, Alex Neil, Darren Fletcher, Johan Malby, Martin O'Neill, and the rest of people. Wayne Rooney. Kidding me?
Oh, bugger off. No,
Like
no.
anyone puts a bet on anyone. There's an interesting one way down there. Graham Potter.
Brighton manager.
Yeah. If you're going to bring in director of football and bring in David Webb, bring Potter in, those two are the guys who were that Swedish team back in the day. Vios Boris is on the list. Yeah, get him in just for shits and giggles with Cham coming back. Perfect.
Oh, God.
Yeah, and then it just keeps going. So you got Lucien Favre, or however you say it. One thing's got him 66-1, one's got him at 14-1. They're all over the joint. Oh, here you go. Malcolm Mackay. So, as you can see, there's a whole list of stupidity going on there. I'd like to know, off the back of going through those rumours and all the listed people there, what do you think, Claire, makes a good Celtic manager?
Oh, that list was just a bit ridiculous. Some of those names are a whole different kind of stupid. I was talking to somebody yesterday on a similar topic, and I said that the manager would need to be someone that will get on with a director of football. Now, I personally do not think Keane would be overly willing to take instructions from someone else. And I don't think he'd be overly keen to... I'm not saying he wouldn't listen to someone else's opinion, I don't know, but he doesn't strike me as the type of person that would... I mean, he could probably start a fight in an empty room. So I don't know about that. I think they need to be open-minded. I think they need to have a thick skin, and they need to not take any shite. They also need to know or be told or be informed, you're coming into a goldfish bowl. Let's not beat about the bush here. They're coming into a totally different... Your life's not your own when you're an old firm manager. But they need to have very good tactical knowledge, and they need to have... I think, personally, Eddie Howe is my number one manager, and I think he's got the attributes. He's young, he's driven, he can coach, he's got a track record of being a good coach. He's got experience in the English Premier League, which would probably help. He probably has contacts down south. I'm thinking loan players here. I'm thinking potential young players that we could even sign. And also, he's the type of manager, I think, if we offered him, for example, a 3-year deal, that's, he'd take it. He wouldn't just do the bullshit 1-year rolling contract or 18 months and then bugger off. Kennedy needs to get the fast train out of Celtic Park, because I worry that he's going to hang about and get some role somewhere. And he's seen off, 4 or 5 managers? I think Kennedy's been there long enough to see off. I think it's 4 or 5 other managers. And I mean, there's something not right there. There's something no sitting well there with me. But back to your point, give me Eddie Howe, please. Thank you. I think he's got the attributes that I want.
All right. So with the list there, so we know Eddie Howe's your number one. We'll come back to your 2 through to 5 later on the end of the podcast. So we'll do the same, Liam, for you. So what do you think makes a good Celtic manager? And who would be your top manager that you would go for?
I mean, of those names listed, I'm thinking Favre would be a funny one just for trying to hear Chris Boyd try to pronounce it. You know, Steve McLaren, listening to him trying to do a Glasgow accent would be brilliant.
I'd pay big money to watch that.
Oh, aye, absolutely. But no, I think it needs to be somebody who is aware of what it's like to have the media spotlight on you constantly. So someone who has either played at the highest level in Europe or has managed at the highest level in Europe before. That rules out quite a few of the candidates you've mentioned there, I think. Eddie Howe has managed in the Premier League, so he would know what that's about. And, so would somebody like, for example, Frank Lampard. So would obviously Rafa Benitez if we're getting into unrealistic territory. Also needs to be somebody who has contacts around Europe who can bring in players and scout for players and things like that. So I'd like someone who's maybe got a bit of experience beyond just the UK as well. So that's important. And of course, someone who has a proven track record of winning things doesn't necessarily need to be at the top level, but someone who has a proven record of winning. And Eddie Howe, again, fits that mold because he's proven that he can win and build up mediocre teams into kind of overachieving, which is something that Martin O'Neill was good at before he came to Celtic as well. Overall, I don't know for sure if Eddie Howe's the guy I want, but he fits the balance of being a realistic option we could actually get and someone who ticks some of the boxes I want, if not all of them. I'm also, and this is probably not a popular view, I'm not completely against Frank Lampard if he was approached, because I think he showed enough at Derby before he went to Chelsea to suggest to me he could make a good manager. And the Chelsea job is a revolving door because nothing will ever be good enough for their owner unless they're winning every trophy in sight, which is unrealistic for them, right? So I think that's a guy that's got a point to prove. And the guy who comes to Celtic is going to have to be somebody that thinks they've got a point to prove. Because a manager who's already at the top is not going to be motivated to come to Scotland, realistically. Needs to be an up-and-coming manager who's looking to make a name, or a manager who's just come out of a high-profile job and wants to prove that he can still cut it. So, yeah, I would say either Howe or Lampard would do me of the names that have been mentioned. Don't want Roy Keane. Certainly don't want Robbie Keane. But no, I think that's the... And like Claire says, Kennedy has to go. He cannot be a part of whatever comes next because he's tainted goods, unfortunately. He's been part of too many failures in the past. So, yeah, I think it needs to be a complete clear out of the... Whoever comes in has to bring in a completely new backroom team as well. And if that can include someone with a Celtic connection, somebody like Johan Mjällby or Henrik Larsson, great. If not, it's not an essential, but it's something I would like.
All I have to say is Dr. Joe didn't have a Celtic connection, and look what he did.
Yeah.
So with what you said, Liam, about either it's going to be someone on the come up as a manager or someone who has gone somewhere, had a stumble, and is looking to reassert themselves and prove themselves again. You said Frank Lampard. Now, when he was first year at at Chelsea, he did a decent job with a young team where he couldn't sign anyone. So, what he finished top 4 or something with that squad anyway. So, he did well. I don't really want him personally, but taking someone, what you referred to, who has had some success, for me this time at Huddersfield, bringing them, building them up, then getting them up, then going across to Schalke, they're on their 5th manager this year, in David Wagner is the guy I'm talking about. He's admitted that he wants the job, and for me, I love the way German football has developed, and they develop their youth players. He's got the coaching skills. He's got Premier League and Championship experience in England. he's got a bit of a profile that he would bring players in. To me, he's proven that he's tactically adept at what he's doing, and he has 2 or 3 plans for everything. So for me, he would be my ideal, and he's been my ideal candidate from day one. So for me, if it's available, David Wagner.
Yeah, I mean, along similar lines, is it Jesse Marsh? That guy's name is. He'd be a good shout as well for similar reasons, I think.
He'd be in the Marco Rose sort of category for us. If we don't get him now, we're not going to get him. Because he'll go to Germany, he'll get himself a job, maybe at Leverkusen or something like that, because that's what Rose went, didn't he? He went to Leverkusen, and now apparently he's going to Dortmund at the end of the season. That's how well he's done it. So I could see Marsh doing the same steps again, going from following Rose, who was at Salzburg, to Leverkusen to then get a bigger job in Germany. I think if he makes that move to Germany and does well, he'll be out of our price range for pretty much forever.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one.
We either got to get Marsh now, or it's not going to happen.
Aye, I would agree with that. It's now or never as far as he's concerned.
I think he's a coach that's only going to get better as well, so he just completely goes out of our wheelhouse very quickly if that's the case. So,
agree. All right.
I mean, are we not on 5 weeks now that Lennon's been at a job or whatever it is, and we've still not even got a sniff of a manager or director of football or anything?
Well, for me, it's 5 weeks since Lenny's left. It's also 75 to 80 days sort of range till our first Champions League qualifier. God, that's scary. We also have season books, as you brought up earlier, Claire, that need to be sold. We had Desmond's comments last week about it's an interesting thing, and all these people being linked to the job looks like they are actually reaching out saying, would you be interested in an interview? Would you be interested in an interview? Would you? So they're talking to people, which is good to see. But for me, we need to be given something soon. Whether that's a Fergal Harkin comes in as your director of football, or a David Webb comes in as your director of football. You got to get the director of football in first, and then they can be part of it, appointing the actual new manager. I don't mind if we don't appoint another manager for another 2-3 weeks, as long as the director of football is in pretty much within the week.
Yeah, I mean, it's just. I feel like as a Celtic fan, obviously, I think that we're all being treated pretty crap by the board. I don't think they're just taking the piss a wee bit, if I'm being honest. I mean, just any positivity would be great. Some good news. I mean, I'm trying very, very hard to get excited about the Falkirk game. Really, really trying, but I'm even struggling with that. You know, it's just I'm at that stage now where I just need something to kind of look forward to. I'm not saying that I've got the fear that Falkirk will knock us out, because God, there'd be riots if that happened. But I'm just saying a wee bit of positivity to G up the team, who are probably quite flat, knowing that their captain's buggering off in 6 weeks' time.
It's not just the captain; it's the CEO's out the door, the manager's out the door, the long-term captain's out the door. It's all three of them. Normally, your 3 main pillars that your club is built around that's like your spine of your team. It's the equivalent of the club. Who's going to be in those roles? Who's going to be, CEO? We know is Don Mackay, great, but he doesn't start for another 3 months. So, in the next 3 months, who's going to be our manager? Who's going to be our director of football? Who's going to be our new captain? Probably Kelmac. Would you guys offer Ira a new deal and try and make him the captain? I doubt it'll happen, but that 8 million apparently being readied by Newcastle, it's derisory. I'd rather lose him and not cop a cent than have him for another year than take 8 million for him from them.
Aye. The thing is as well, but throughout this whole situation, the club's communication has just been abysmal. I mean, 4:00 today, I pick up my phone. Oh, email from Celtic Football Club. Maybe they're announcing something. Maybe it's going to finally be some good news. Kids' jog suits now only £25.
I saw that.
I mean, that is just a kick in the balls, isn't it?
I saw that the other day. Home tops now £45, and I'm just like, piss off.
They're not giving them away now.
Jesus.
Yeah, we're talking about the home tops. The the football. What was it, Liam? The
headlines, I think
footy
it was.
Headlines or whatever that puts out the rumoured first and third kits for us for next season. I like the home kit. The third kit that they've given us, that dark greeny looking one, it's pretty much a copy of this season's third kit, the black one, just different colours.
I don't think that's going to entice a lot of fans right now. I think they're so tetchy and so frustrated. They want a bigger announcement than a kit. I think that's just all the bollocks. I mean, if that's Celtic's way of trying to get the fans back on side or whatever they're trying to do, that's just like what Liam said, abysmal.
To be honest, with all that's going on in the world just now, I think it's actually in very poor taste for anybody to try and launch a kit just now. I mean, if that kit is genuine, apparently it's coming out in May. So, so we're only talking about 6 to 8 weeks from now. And, people are not going to be out of the pandemic, but then people will still be unemployed or unable to work. People will be furloughed. People won't be sure about the long-term job security. And Celtic's like, oh, here you go, give us another £60. In fact, no, give us another £180 because we're going to bring out 3 new tops.
And the training gear, don't forget the training gear.
They could easily kick it back a year. Because that's what most of the national teams are doing. I think almost all the national teams at Euro 2020 are still wearing the same kits they brought out last year. Because they were going to wear them at the tournament last summer and they didn't. Celtic could have employed a wee bit of positive PR here and just said, look, we've got a new kit, but we're going to hold it back a year because, we understand people are struggling just now, and it's only been 9 months since the last kit came out.
Unfortunately, its contractual obligations, a 5-year deal with Adidas means that they're going to want to do kit launches for 5 tops for every year for 5 years. And did they do one last year? Not really, because of the changeover and then the lockdown and everything. So I think they'll probably be the ones pushing it more than the club. But at the same time, I put nothing past Celtic.
And the other thing is, what would stop them from just saying, look, at the end of the 5 years, we'll give you another year, to make up for this one. I mean, there's ways that if the club really wanted to negotiate it, they could. And I'm sure Adidas wouldn't want the bad PR of saying no.
Well, it's easy enough. It's 5 years at 30 million or something like that. So make it 6 years at 30 million. Instead of it being 6 million a year, it's 5 million a year. Done. Easy.
Aye, exactly. And you get you'll probably sell a lot more tops because you'll get a lot more positivity from the fans. I tell you, if Celtic announced that tomorrow, I'd make a point of buying every top when it comes out.
You probably will anyway, Liam. We know you.
I know. It's like an illness, but, what can I say?
We had an episode at the start of the year. Was it the meth? Was it the heroin? No, it was Adidas. And that's pretty much your punchline here, Liam.
Aye. Yep. Guilty as charged.
All right, so what we'll do is we'll just change the topic a little bit here. We'll throw to you did an article a few hours ago, Liam, on called How to Freshen Up Scottish Football. Look to Japan. So do you want to give that a rundown and then we can discuss that?
Sure. Give me a wee second here just to call it up on my iPad. Basically the article was just, I go to a lot of J-League games. Well, I did before lockdown, obviously. At the J-League, it is like a completely different world to how you get treated at a Scottish game. And really, there are so many pointers we could learn from the J-League in terms of how to improve the whole product of Scottish football. And this article is only really touching on a few of them. At some point in the future, I'll hopefully write a longer form version of this. This was just a few thoughts I had this afternoon, but I'll just run through it quickly. So basically, one thing is the idea that this season, the Scottish Cup is going to be played basically within about a 6-week period, whereas before it would be played out over a few months. And I think that generates more excitement because it's after the end of the season, you've still got something to play for. Celtic fans now, all right, this has been a crap season, but we could still win the Scottish Cup. It's a redeemer for us potentially. Had the Huns not blown it in the League Cup, they could be looking at, okay, 3 games now to go for a treble. So I think having the cup positioned at the end of the season, after everything else, is a good idea. And in Japan, they already do that. In the J League, the league season concludes in mid-November, and then, basically the next week, the Emperor's Cup starts. And the Emperor's Cup runs through December, and the final is played on New Year's Day every year.
Okay.
And that is like the sort of bringing the curtain down on the season. And because then the next season doesn't start until March. So it's good because it gives teams that have got nothing to play for in the league something to look forward to. It gives fans at least one more game after the end of the season. It gives the smaller teams a chance to concentrate completely on the cup because they don't have to juggle their squads in the league and the cup. Celtic and Rangers can basically field 2 teams if they have to. But, your St Mirren, your Kilmarnock, your St Johnstone can't do that. Whereas in Japan, when it comes to the cup, they can play their full-strength team because the league's already done. So I just think it's got so many good points to it. And also, if you've got a condensed, 4 or 5 week tournament, that's a lot easier to sell as a TV package than a fixture in January, a fixture in February, a fixture in March. Sell it all as one package and give give BT Sport or give Sky Sports, whatever, the exclusive on it. You'll get more money that way.
Yeah, like the sounds of that, Liam. That's a good one there. So that'd be a good idea. The only thing would be make sure that the league finishes earlier in the season so that, by the time the cup's done, it still has your cup final in May when it would normally be, which means the league would have to end, if that's the case, in March.
Well, actually, not necessarily, because coming on to my second point...
I deliberately set you up for that.
Yeah. I think that we should actually change the entire format of the league to match the J-League calendar. Because Japan's weather patterns are very similar to Scotland, particularly in the north of Japan. In fact, Hokkaido is even colder than the north of Scotland. It's basically the Arctic Circle up there. So what we do here is we start the league in March, run it through until November, and we take a 2-week break in the summer, the same way as we take the winter break in Scotland just now. In Japan, that's for the rainy season, but Scotland's permanent rainy season, isn't it, really? So, run it until November. And that would mean, for example, the World Cup next year is going to be in December. Not a problem if we have this calendar. You're going to have a lot less games getting called off for bad weather. You're going to have far less of an issue of people, for example, going to the game and coming back when it's dark, because you can play in the sunny summer nights. And it's a lot nicer to be in Celtic Park in July than it is in December. I think we all know that, Again, to me, it's a no-brainer, because not only is it better for the fans, it's also potentially better for the league in terms of marketability, because for too long, we have tried to put ourselves alongside England. And we don't match England. England is 10 times the capacity for fans. The clubs have got exponentially more money than we have. It doesn't fit. We should compare ourselves to smaller leagues, like the J League. And, by having Scottish football in summer, when there's no English football, there's no French football, there's no German football, you can then market it as this is what you watch in the downtime. I think you'd have a lot of people in England in particular paying a wee bit extra to watch Scottish football when there's no other football on. I genuinely think that you could get a lot more people on board with Scottish football if you stop putting it up directly against English football. Because even in Japan, right, where I can watch every English Premier League game on an app on my PlayStation, your average Japanese would rather watch, Bournemouth against Southampton than he would Hibs against Aberdeen. Despite the fact Hibs against Aberdeen is probably going to be a more entertaining game. So if Hibs and Aberdeen is on in the summer when there's no EPL, people are much more likely to watch it. It's just common sense to me. What do you guys think?
Then they build that relationship with the clubs and the players. Like, oh, I've seen these guys play for 3 or 4 weeks. I want to keep an eye on them the rest of the season, and off you go.
Exactly.
The other thing you touched on, Liam, was the less, rained out games or called off because of weather. And I look at it and go, that'd be perfect, because the amount of times we get to late November through to start of Feb, and Ibrox is a goat track, with just barely any grass on it, or those plastic pitches that clubs have got, there's no need for them if you're not going to be playing when there's ice on the ground. So it would actually work better that way too, to give you a higher quality of football.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you reckon, Claire?
Well, I can say firsthand the Glasgow weather generally is pretty crap. And it makes so much sense having some football in the summer. You know what it's like, though, when there's... You'll know what I mean when I say the boredom of having no tournaments and nothing happening for, 4, 5, 6 weeks, or whatever it is, when the season finishes to when the next one starts. And, I totally agree with what Liam's saying. Why are we going right against the English League? Like, what is the point? If we were to play throughout the summer, the market and the potential for money making would be very, very good. I also think as well it would make transfers more exciting and a lot more opportunities for players up here that maybe go under the radar as such, because nobody really notices them, because they're either watching England or Scotland games. They're not watching both. Like Liam, I can watch, every single English game if I wanted to. But you might find a Scottish game on a Friday night a lot more exciting than certain English games. You can give me a championship game up here than, Burnley against West Brom or something like that. Do you know what I mean? No thanks. But yeah, it makes sense. Makes sense, especially if you're doing it in terms of climate, in terms of money, and as well as in terms of not just being going against the English League as well. A lot more options for people to watch, get some knowledge of Scottish football, and see what it's not as bad as probably what the English think.
I've got 2 things to add here, just off the back of that, Claire. We had, because there's no Scottish Premier League games down here, last weekend, my recording on our Foxtel had decided to record a certain game. Dunfermline versus Dundee. What a game. 3-2. Unbelievable. It was like, for me watching that, it was like quality football. And I'm like, that's the second tier in Scotland. And I'm able to get that on TV here in Australia. So if I can get that, why can't I get a game like St Mirren versus Ross County? Not Ross County. Yeah, it is Ross County, if I wanted to. Why can't I get one of them? Because we don't get them shown over here. It's either the Celtic game or the Rangers game shown. That's it, every week. So, yeah, it's... So there's that thing. The other main one that popped into my head when you were talking before, Liam, was if we started in March, I can only see one little issue.
Mm-hmm.
European games. We'd be mid-season come the qualifiers in June, July, August, whenever they're played, right?
Mm-hmm.
We'd be coming to the end of our season when the group stages end. So that would tie in well. However, if you go through to the group stages and you're coming into before your next season starts, we're going to have our pre-season games, or doing pre-season in Jan, Feb before we actually start up in March. the first round in the Champions League, after the round of 16 or Europa League round of 32. I know the comps are changing, so the dates could change. But based on the current thing, we'd be doing pre-season and not having played for 2 months, up to 2 months, when we come through to the first knockout games.
Yeah, but here's the thing, though. Would you rather have that at the last 32 stage or at the preliminary stage where we have it now?
Oh, absolutely at the knockout stage. Don't get me wrong. Absolutely. Yeah. I'm just playing devil's advocate here.
No, because I think the Russian league, possibly the Ukrainian league, maybe a few of the Nordic leagues. There's a few European leagues that already use a similar timetable to the J League.
Yeah, Norwegian does.
Aye, and they work around it in time. We would learn to do it as well.
Yeah.
You know,
it's an interesting concept, though. It's something that they maybe need to look at.
That was why when we got knocked out by Malmo a few years ago, it was such a big deal. Because they weren't even in season.
Oh, that's right, because they said all about them being fitter and stronger and faster. And
because they were in season and we weren't. So that tied in when you look at it that way.
Yeah. It also shows you how badly we played last time when we got knocked out by Copenhagen, because I think they were just coming into their season when they beat us.
Yep. Exactly.
Yeah. So I'll move on to my next point here. Now, this is quite an important one. Uniformity of pricing. Now, I don't know, Claire, perhaps you can fill in some of the gaps here, because it's been years since I've been to a Celtic game at Parkhead.
Okay.
How much is a typical match day ticket at Celtic Park now for one game?
For an SPL game, normally you're looking at, depending, anything between 28 and 35 quid, depending on where you sit or, concessions or students or whatever. Like European games, they're looking at add another £10 on top of that, but you get the packages for if we qualify for the Champions League, they sell the 3-match packages.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they used to be, this is going to show my age a little bit here, but they used to be, I think, 80 quid for 3 games, and then it slowly creeped up, 87, 91, 99, and it's like, oh, for fuck's sake, do you know what I mean? Like,
because I remember when I had my season ticket, I got the 3-match package. I think it was 2002, and it was 75 quid for the 3 games. But that was nearly 20 years ago. So,
it is expensive for people that can't go to every game or whatever and buy a ticket for a match day. I mean, £30 to what? I don't know if anybody would have paid £30 to watch Celtic this season. To be fair, if they could have, but it is expensive for what it is, but yeah, that's the prices, give or take.
So I just take an average here, if we just say, for example, the average SPL match ticket at Celtic Park is 30 quid, right?
Right.
Just for example. Now, the way the J League does it is they have a tiered pricing structure, and the prices go up depending on where you sit in the stadium. So if you're in like the poor seats, as I would call it, but basically behind the goals, they are 2,500 yen, which is like 16 quid on today's exchange rate. And then your dearest ticket, which is basically the equivalent of the director's box, is 10,000 yen. So that's about 65 quid for your ultimate premium seat. But the thing is with this, these prices are across the entire league. Every team has to sign up and agree to charge the same rates for home and away fans, and it's the same price. If I go to see FC Tokyo or if I go to see my local team Yamaga, it's the same price. And that would be, Celtic might take the hit on that initially because we'd probably have to charge less than we do now in order to get an average, a fair average price across the league. But it also means when we go to Kilmarnock or we go to St Johnstone or we go to St Mirren, we're not going to get fleeced like we do now, being charged a lot more than the home fans pay. It's I think it's a fairer system, and the option of like different tiers, so you only really pay what you can afford to pay. I think £16 to see a Celtic game, even if it's not the best seat, I think that's a fair price, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd say that's probably. I mean, yeah, if you're behind the goals on the top tier or whatever, or in that corner at Celtic Park where the pillars are for whatever reason, restricted view or something like that, then yeah. I like that idea. I wonder of the hit we would take though, like what you're saying, money wise, we would need to charge. Us and Rangers would probably need to take a hit on the prices that we charge for tickets. I mean, I read an article somewhere. I think Arsenal are the most expensive team for season tickets down south or something like that. Which, that's quite scary when you think about the money that teams like Man City and I don't want to say the better teams than Arsenal, but you know what I mean. Like do you know what? I saw that the better teams than Arsenal, like if they don't charge as much, and yeah, I'd take the financial hit for a short period of time, but look at, I mean, the benefits to the smaller teams, your Kilmarnocks, your St Mirrens, your Dundee Uniteds, etc. They would do well out of it, and again, that's a good thing for teams like that who maybe don't have a lot of, shall we say, disposable income.
Aye, and I think for us, tickets are, I mean, they're an important income stream, but they're definitely not our only income stream. We would still be well out in front because we make money on merchandise, we make money on TV sales, we make money on the commercial department, corporate hospitality, whatever. We're always going to have these things that other teams don't that will keep us out in front anyway. I just think this is giving something back to the fans, and it's also giving fans of other clubs a fairer deal as well, It
sounds like the old 20s plenty sort of thing that was going on a few years back about, for any game, £20, $20, whatever, €20, wherever you are in the world, that seems like a decent thing. Like, you had guys in Germany saying €20. So, like, I think this ties in a bit to that, where it's great. Something where you're talking about ticket prices and gate receipts meaning a lot more to different clubs. It'd be good for, say, if you had a bunch of us going to, say, Dundee or Kilmarnock or St Mirren, St Johnstone, wherever, where they put the prices up, lowers it'll balance out. But I want to go a step further. If we're going to go uniformity of pricing across the league for tickets, then I would also love to see financial fair play coming off the back of this as well.
Absolutely.
Because if teams are going to be making more, if we're going to give up money at Celtic Park for what we can charge for tickets to away fans, and also with the amount of people, like our fans, the prices are all going to be capped, that's great. But then Rangers need to live within their means. Aberdeen need to live within their means. Hearts need to live within their means, and so on. Everyone needs to do it, because if they're going to, these clubs like the ones you mentioned, Killy, St Johnstone, St Mirren, if they're going to be making more money, or it's going to be more capped on what they're getting at the gate, and they're not fleecing us, then they need to be policed as well. And I think that's what needs to happen.
Aye. Speaking of police, I'll go on to my final point here. One thing where Japan is way out in front of Scotland, they have an absolute zero tolerance policy for racism and bigotry. There's a team in Japan called Urawa Reds, who are basically the Huns of the J-League, right?
They're Red Diamonds.
They're owned by Mitsubishi, so they've got this overwhelming sense of self-importance and entitlement. Their fans are absolute fucking pond scum. They cause trouble wherever they go. They recently got gubbed 5-0 in the league by Kawasaki. That was quite fun to watch. But anyway, so in 2014, Urawa Reds unveiled a banner at their stadium during a match which read "Japanese only." Now, that alone might not sound like too bad a message, but a journalist asked the fans' representative directly, and he said, "Oh, it's because we don't want foreigners sitting in the stadium with us." So they were quite open that it was a racist banner. The club tried to talk it down, said it was only banter. Where have we heard this before? And they said that the banner wasn't racist. JFA were like, it is. There's a big fine for you, the equivalent of, I think, about $50,000 US. And you'll play your next match behind closed doors. It'll cost you about another $100,000 in potential revenue. So then Urawa had to apologise, and they banned 20 of their ultra fans from going to the games. But they still get caught up in things like that now and again. But the one instance where they had an overtly racist banner in the stadium, fined a massive amount of money by Japanese standards, and banned from letting any fans into their next home game. You imagine how quickly Scotland would clean up its act if we did that.
Now, first of all, why are they picking on the Gaijins? Second of all, it would be amazing to see if the SFA actually had the balls to do that. But come on now.
Yeah. And the thing is, in the case of Urawa, it only took one instance of them being told, you can't do that anymore. And they stopped it. It'd probably take more than one case with Rangers, but you'd be amazed how quickly they would fall in line if it actually started costing them that amount of money.
We had a similar thing over here in the A-League where you had a few clubs, Melbourne Victory, the team I go for, and Western Sydney, which is where that scum Kenny Miller's the assistant manager at the moment. But those two clubs had the two biggest active supports in the league, and they're constantly letting flares off. So in a similar way that the way the JFA cut down on, the way this all worked with the racism and that sort of stuff in Japan, our guys had the same thing where it was like whack, fine for flares, and now you've got a suspended 3-point reduction on your season if you do it again for the rest of the season. Let's just say neither club had that issue again after that. So it shows if the guys running the league actually have the balls to stand up to a club and their fans, you can get things changed pretty quickly.
The club's bricking themselves over here, though. I mean, they'd be absolutely bricking it if that was the case. But it would, it would work. Like Liam said, if it cost them money, they definitely wouldn't condone anything.
Because right now they feel empowered to do it because they've done it again and again and nobody's called them out on it.
Yeah, that's what the exact same entitlement is why they went out to George Square and broke benches and stuff like that, because it's an entitlement. They think they can do what they want.
Aye, absolutely. That's exactly what it is. Oh, on a side note, Jarrod, we got some fan mail from some Rangers supporters, didn't we?
I was going to finish the podcast with that, Liam, but we'll get to it now. So, for all you, what's the nicest way to describe it?
Well, I just wanted to commend them. Actually, I think it's wonderful that these guys were able to tear themselves away from their sister, mother, family pet for long enough to actually listen to our wee podcast.
The funny thing is, they say we're like obsessed, but this is a podcast that we did way back in the pre-season. It was like August last year, sort of thing, right? Where we gave our pre-season fearless predictions for the season. We're going to be reviewing them on next week's podcast anyway. I was actually looking at them last night, putting that together so we can review them. Let's just say it didn't age well, but where I went back at them and said, thanks for listening. It's great that you're padding our stats for our podcast. We appreciate that. And if it's only because you're doing it to take the piss out of us so bad. But the fact that, they went back to an episode that old and went into the middle of it, 40-something minutes into a podcast to find that, to then be going absolutely crazy about it. My phone's still blowing up now with it all. I've got seriously, on Twitter at the moment, I've got 87 notifications from them liking things and commenting and stuff. It's brilliant. So to those vlogs, well done. Thanks for padding our stats, and tune in next week to hear us take the piss out of ourselves as well, because you might enjoy a few of these little snide comments that we may throw your way, just for fun.
Because unlike you lot, we don't go around smashing up benches or pissing on statues. We can laugh at ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. So that'll be fun. So, before we start to wind up the podcast, Celtic versus Falkirk. We'll keep it as simple as possible. I checked their playing list before. They have like 4 players that I've heard of, and the most high-profile one of them is Connor Salmon. That's pretty much telling the level that they're at, right? So, what do you think the prediction will be? I just hope we win. That's pretty much it. Like, I don't know what to think of the game. I'm saying Celtic 2-0.
Hoping. It all hinges on what team plays, honestly. No, I think we should win. I'm going to go for 3-1 Celtic.
Aye, I'll go 3-0 Celtic. I think we'll
There'll be
score
some
early.
fuck up at the back, you know that.
Nah, I think we'll score early. It'll be a bit tight, then we'll nick 2 goals near the end. 3-0.
And Griffiths will get 3 minutes to do it, yeah?
Aye.
That's where we'll come on and get a double in the last 5 minutes. A cracking free kick, and then, just for a laugh.
Oh, Griffiths, such a waste, honestly.
All right, so we mentioned earlier, if we had to put together a top 5 list of managers, we'll just rattle it off as a group. So far on that list, we've got Eddie Howe, David Wagner, and who'd you say, Liam? You said Howe as well, didn't you?
Lampard.
Aye, Lampard. Aye,
okay,
sorry,
so instead of going to top 5, we'll just say 2 more each from the list that we think would be great possible options, and then we'll just leave the podcast there. So, Claire, who do you think would be 2 more decent, realistic options?
From a purely realistic point of view, Roy Keane, unfortunately, is a realistic option.
Yeah, I was going to say, go one realistic, one, have a laugh one.
Okay, Roy Keane's my realistic one, and his name's just out my head. Are you joking? The Atletico Madrid manager, Diego Simeone, he's on my Christmas card list. I think that guy's amazing. I just think he'd be fantastic.
What do you reckon, Liam?
Okay, realistic one. Sergei Rebrov. Dream one. Jesse Marsh.
And this is for you. I'll go my funny one first. This is for you, Danny McKinley, if you're listening. Ange Postecoglou is my having a laugh one, former Australia manager, who's in the J-League, which ties into your article, Liam. But realistic, as long as it's not Jack Ross, I suppose. Or Roy Keane. Yeah, I reckon a little left field. Dan Petrescu.
Aye. Do you know I was between him and Rebrov actually as to which one I would go for? I think they're both kind of similar managers.
You inspired me, Liam. There you go. That's what put clues in my head. All right, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Celtic Down Under podcast, except for you Rangers fans who tune in to take the piss out of us. If you're at it, make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Join our Facebook group and page, Celtic Down Under, on Instagram and Twitter at Celtic Down. Articles are on CelticDownUnder.com. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Hail, hail.
Hail, hail.
Hail, hail.